Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on February 2nd, 2026 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my nice calling to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every decision I make by. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the years with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things today, I do desire to tip my hat to Storm. He is our primary moderator that hides in the background to make sure tech continues to work properly. And rest assured, with me on the other end, that is a challenge. Now, he also stays in the background to make sure that problem children are removed from the chat room before they become problem children. And for those of you that think that my moderators are being bullied by coming down hard, understand. I was the one that asked them to do that because this stream has got to remain a safe zone for virtually everybody. And yes, that includes bullies that are behaving. Okay, I'm pretty black and white about it. The rules are at the top of this chat room, and they scroll constantly across the bottom of the screen. Now we scroll down a bit, and we have LA Moon in the chat room. She is our primary moderator in the chat room, and she's there to help keep the conversation going, watch for problem children, and of course she has that real important thing of making certain that my health is being watched after, so you guys don't get the pleasure of watching me drop dead on air. Although that would be entertaining if I got up again. Yeah, and then we have Kira Ava actually sitting behind me, and she too is there to help make sure this stays a safe place. But she watches for the questions just in case I miss something. And rest assured, the way my eyes are working, that's highly probable a lot of the time. So today we're going to be taking a look at a truth behind savings. But to start with, we have Eternity Eternal is in here with the gold. How you doing, Eternity? Hopefully things are going well. You know, I was really pleased. I'm watching things change with a day in the office as well. And, you know, I can honestly say it's people like Eternity that pop in there into both streams that make it so much easier for me to continue. So thank you for that, Eternity. And then we have Sherry Fink in the house. And Sherry, I don't know if I've seen Sherry in here before. I've known Sherry for a long time. But welcome aboard, Sherry. Hopefully things are coming on board. I know your life is hectic as all get out. But then I don't think you'd know what to do with it if it was quiet. And we scroll down here and can't see a thing, so that's always handy. Skip to Malou, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully things are going well on your end. And then we scroll down and we are caught up. Now, here's the thing with savings. We're always, people are always told, well, you got to save, especially if you're behind the 8 ball already. You got to cut back on your spending. You got to save for a rainy day. Well, this is great. Most of the people I know of that are in the classification of the working poor, you don't save for a rainy day because it's raining all the time. Okay, but there are ways of dealing with it. And the first thing you got to realize is it's not about saving massive amounts. It's about saving little bits and pieces at a time. But here's where people go sideways. Okay, some of you are under the impression that if you've got minimal money, you've got to save what you can. Pay your minimums on your credit cards and what have you. This doesn't work unless, if you've got a credit card, and please, if you got one like this, let me know. I'd love to have one, where the interest on the credit card is lower than the interest that you're earning on your bank account. Okay, if you got a credit card like that, let me know. Okay, because I'd love to jump over and grab one like that. And yeah, you absolutely do. Skip's just saying you have to stay strong. Oh, there's a neat and I do feel for you there, Skip. Skip's saying, hackers got her number and now she's having to deal with it. And I tell you, I know what you're going through. Okay, there's a neat thing with hackers. The moment they open their mouth, couple of little, and this is sidetracked, but we'll work with it. Somebody somebody calls in. They ask you for anything, and they go, yes or no. Is this correct? Just give me a yes or no. Do not give them a yes or no. Say correct, or you got it, or anything else that's an affirmative. You really want to confuse them, use the word affirmative. Most of the hackers really don't seem to have much going for them in the way of a vocabulary. But where it comes to savings, my dad used to say quite consistently, if you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. We're not talking about putting chunks of money aside. As a matter of fact, since hackers was brought up, way back, and Storm, you may remember this, way back a good 40 years ago when computers first really started to hit the line, there was a young 16-year-old that hacked into the banking system. And he pulled a really neat stunt. Okay. And I definitely do not like hackers, but you had to give this guy credit. He wrote a program where it literally, he stole millions of dollars. And when the police found him, they did bring him in. They said, look, you can keep the millions if you, number one, stop doing that, and number two, show us how you did in the first place. What he did was he wrote a program that took the half penny and lower of every account, of every transaction that went through 3 banks. Okay, funneled it all into his account. Net result, all they had was several million counts of petty theft. And they just decided they weren't doing anything if he would show them how he did it. So what we're looking at, Operation, how you doing? Now, what do we got? Sorry about that. We have come up here. We've got Eternity with the gold. Sherry came in with the silver. Skip, you came in with the bronze. And then down a little further, and we have, lo and behold, we have Operation Shutdown in with the honorable mention. In my, with the grocery store I go to, okay, at the bottom of the receipt, it tells you saved X number of dollars, whether it's from discounts, coupons, whatever. Okay, now, most stores have something to that effect. I'm sure many of you are coupon shoppers. But here's the kicker. Let's say you save on the bill, you save, 30 cents because of a coupon or discount. Most people will take that 30 cents and carry on with it. They don't do anything with it. Oh, there we go. Storm definitely remembers him. See, Storm goes, that was Stephen Mitnick. Sorry, Mitnick. This is the thing. I remember events. I don't always remember names. I mean, mind you, I don't remember my own name half the time. I think that has something to do with being called so many of them over the years. But if all you're doing is taking that money and you're leaving your bank account, you are not saving the money. get a bank and get a savings account that doesn't charge you handling fees, okay, for just leaving your money there. If you don't have one, do what I did with your bank. I actually asked my bank manager probably a decade back, if they had an actual savings account. And he looks at me and he goes, well, yeah, we do. He goes, it doesn't pay much, right? But we do have one. So I looked at him and I said, really? I said, unless I misremember something, your savings account pays 0.25%. He goes, yeah, like I said, it doesn't pay much. I says, yeah, but what you didn't tell me is that same bank account cost me $10 a month to have. He goes, yeah. I says, well, do the math. I put $100 into the bank. You're going to give me 25 cents back, right? He goes, that's right. He says, I told you it wasn't much. I says, yeah, but I'm paying $10 a month to have that account. So what's going to happen here is by my calculations, at the end of the year, I'm down $120, and you gave me a quarter. This means I'm down $119.75. I said, care to explain where the savings is? Right. Well, he told me that he never looked at it that way. He says, how did you figure that out? He said, I went to school to find out how banks work. I shook my head. I says, please tell me you didn't go there thinking they were going to show you how to make your money work. Right. Well, 6 months later, there was a change in our bank. There was an actual savings account that I've got now. And as soon as he got it, he called me up and told me it was there. That there is no cost to leaving the money sit there. Philip, how you doing? Philip Blair has just wandered in. Was Philip in here at the beginning?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, he just barely popped in. I mean, if he was, he didn't say anything.
Yeah. Okie doke. I do appreciate you keeping an eye out for that, Philip. Let's face it, I am not 100% accurate. I miss things. Most often if I'm out, if she's out and about, I end up missing my wife. But I don't think that has anything to do with savings. But one of the nice little parts that I look at when we start looking at savings is if you put it aside, okay, and absolutely, like up in Canada, I don't know if you guys have one in the States or anywhere else in the world for that matter, but we have a tax-free savings account, and you can take all that savings and put it into the tax-free savings account and then invest it at the same time out of that account. Now your savings is making money. Okay, this is the reality behind it. So from that standpoint, you got to understand, true savings is not a question of just not spending the money. It's moving it where it belongs and where it can be of the most use. I'm absolutely stunned here. We're what, 10 minutes in? 15. And we've already got 11 in the house. I'm absolutely amazed. But, I can work with it quite happily. One of the biggest things that I have to look at when it comes to saving money is understand that saving money does not mean just dollars. Okay? You can take a look at coupons. That's a way that people save money, this sort of thing. But here's the real kicker. Okay? Let's say you'd like to buy potatoes. And it's a good deal for 10 pounds, but that's going to go sour, that you're not going to use them all. Talk to a friend, a relative, a neighbor. Okay? Split the cost of the $10, and both of you get to save money and have food. Uh-oh. one of the biggest things we have to take a look at here is ask yourself this. If you've got savings, what are you planning on doing with them? And again, it boils down to a simple issue. You know how to spend your money to keep a roof over your head. I hope. Now, I will tell you, this is a little sidetrack for you. Number one bill in anybody's pocket has got to be, number one bill, take 1% out of the gross money that comes in, if at all possible. Put that in your pocket and 1% in your partner's pocket. Whether it's a wife, a living girlfriend, a common law person, and by the way, girlfriend, boyfriend, I don't care. Okay. But if you got two of you living under the same roof, make sure everybody's getting the same percentage. Because I'll tell you, there's a big thing with that little bit of mad money. Okay, that big thing is this. When you take that money off the top, what you do is change the feel of the money you've got coming in from I'm working to pay my bills to I'm working and paying my bills. One of the things that I look at there is you take a look at that kind of money. Now, once the mad money has been moved, that, by the way, is the money. We're talking $1 on every 100. That's the money that you put aside to go for a coffee, to buy a chocolate bar. Okay? And yes, it can add up. It takes time and discipline. Okay? But the neat part about it is once you've got that done, now here's the important one. The first bill that gets paid after the mad money is your rent. Rent, lease, mortgage, doesn't matter. You keep that roof over your head. Sam Blue Cruise, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And Kitty Cat, I missed you coming in. How you doing, Kitty? One of the things that I did that you got to realize in my case, okay, I'm not perfect. I am certainly not a millionaire. I'm still way behind the 8 ball. But here's the thing. I already went bankrupt twice. Not proud of it, just a statement of fact. I now know how to avoid it. Okay, and if I can drop something in your lap that can stop you from running into a severe problem, then I'm doing something right. The neat part about it, like you get the mortgage, the lease paid, whichever comes first, whichever one applies. Okay, with that in mind, second one, and this one is bizarre. Okay, I talk to people that are behind in their utilities, and I kid you not, I got to get my cable paid. It's got to be paid right away. I know my power is about to get cut off, but I got to have my cable. And I sit there going, just a thought. If you don't pay the power first, it won't matter if you paid your cable bill because you're still not going to be able to use it. But you'd be amazed how many people miss that. Okay. So, absolutely. And we'll go into that, we'll go back into that later. The reality of it is, I wrote a book called Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams. Okay, that lays this out piece by piece. If you go to the stream at the top, to the link at the top of the stream, okay, you can find every book I wrote there. Okay, and you can sort that side of it out. When you're looking at savings is a question of knowing what you're spending and why. Okay, quite often people are overspending because of expediency. Okay, now, for instance, I only found this out today. Okay, now, I've told you I'm looking into health issues and what have you. So I looked up the different medicinal qualities of tomatoes. Okay, now, I don't mind tomato juice. But here's the thing. I can go, and because of what I looked up, I'm not going to tell you all the benefits of it. You desire that information, pretty certain you can find it. Type into the search bar, medicinal benefits of tomato juice. Okay. But what I found was this. I can buy tomatoes, cook them down, turn them into a puree, and I can freeze them. Okay. For a fraction of what it costs me to buy a can of tomato juice. And I don't get all the preservatives. I even looked so far as to find out that according to what I found on the net, and again, do your own research. I don't trust the net any more than I trust people. And rest assured, that does put the bar pretty low. But what I found was you can actually keep it in the fridge in a sealed container for 3 days. Okay. Or you can keep it in the fridge for 3 days. In the freezer, you can keep it for 8 to 10 months before it starts to break down. And this is without all the extra chemicals. The reality of it is, again, if you can make your own, if you can figure out how to make your own, I am no cook, so if I can figure it out, I'm pretty certain you can. Yeah. And Skip goes, I haven't paid for cable in a year. YouTube is free, and any free sites where I can stream, we pay for it over our taxes, just for the emergency broadcast channel, news programs, and films. Yeah, and apparently you're making headway. Now, here's the other thing. Apparently you are making headway, Skip. Here's the other thing to keep a very close eye on. Look at your bank account. Okay? Look at the bank account on the beginning day of every month. Take a look at what your balance is. Pay attention to what you're spending. What you're targeting is make certain that your bank account is at least 1 penny higher on the first of the next month than it was on the first of the last one. And make certain with your credit cards, they are a minimum of 1 penny lower than what they were the month before. These are ways of making certain that your bank account and your savings line climbs at a decent pace. The one thing you gotta remember is impulse buying will wipe out your account in a heartbeat. Lord knows I've done it often enough myself. At this point, I put the kibosh on it. Okay. It simply boils down to this. If you're going to save, the basic math to it is simple. Spend less than what comes in. Understand this is not always possible. So the other thing you look at, if it's not possible to cut back anymore, find a new way to generate a higher income. Okay? There are ways to do it. And I'm talking legal ways, people. By the way, that neat idea of buying a lottery ticket and hoping you win, it's a cute thought. It makes the government lots of money, or anybody else holding the raffle. Okay, not a good way of doing things, because the odds of you losing money are way higher. One of the nice little things that you look at, okay, is when we are talking about savings. Okay, there's another type of savings that most people don't realize. And I swear I'm one of the worst overspenders of it. Okay, my dad used to say, you were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Okay, well, you were also born with 2 eyes. Okay, unfortunately, my mouth seems to work faster than my ears and eyes do. Okay, and this is why I missed out on the whole tax thing. But if you take your time to slow down and think things through before you open the door, you'll be a whole lot happier. Okay. And what do we got here? Oh, I see what we did. I keep an eye on what's going on in the chat room, because honestly, guys, I literally take the information you've got there to come up with an idea as to what kind of topics we're looking at. what kind of topics you would like to find out about. Now, the reality of it is you take your time, think things through, and again, massive thing. So many of you that are in the working poor classification will turn to rent to own. Okay, this is a categorically bad move. Certainly go into the rent to own place. Find out what kind of deal they have. Find out if you can afford it. If you can afford the weekly or monthly payments. If the answer is yes, you can, take that money, put it aside every month. Okay, you will be able to save yourself 2 to 3 times the payments, if at all possible. And here's the thing. When you're buying rent to own, you get the item right away. Problem is that you are now paying 3 times, 2 to 3 times on average of what's going on, what you would be paying. Vanessa, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I trust things are turning around. I know things have been going a little rough for you as of late, but hopefully that is spinning. The neat part about it is that even if you're having a rough time, okay, when you start focusing on making the most of what you've got, you will find that things turn around quite nicely. Well, that's annoying. And yes, I'm going to do this while I'm sitting here because I just don't feel like going all the way back down up front. But at least I'm not using the Bowie knife up on the back wall. But when you slow things down, okay, take your time to think what you're up to. What is it that you really require? The biggest problem that you're going to run into is today's society says you gotta have it right now. Okay, if you buy into that, you're in trouble. Okay, because you won't be able to save that. You're paying for the speed of convenience, and most of the time, in my opinion, what you're getting for a fast return is lower grade quality. It was neat. I was in a shop one day years ago, and they had a beautiful sign: good quality, good service, good quality, good product, fast service. Right? Pick 2. And it's the same thing with your day-to-day life. When you look at your money, understand just sitting on piles of money doesn't do a lot of good. But except it will do one thing for you. When I talk about sitting on money, make sure if you can get 3 months bills and 3 months bills worth of money sitting in the bank, you're in good shape. The trade-off is you got the money sitting there and now you don't have to worry. And this is something else that we look at in the way of savings. One of the biggest problems that so many people are running into is you turn on the computer, go on YouTube, whatever streaming system you'd like. Buy now and we'll give you a discount. Well, this is a cute thought if you require it right then. But about the only thing, the primary things I know of, if they fall apart that you require right away, and these fall into the classification of, you're not saving money, you're going to pay more, but your washer, your dryer, your stove or fridge or freezer drop, one of your major appliances, if they buckle, you're going to need a replacement because the cost of not having them far outweighs the cost of paying for them on a quick base. It really is a numbers game. Philip, you are right. Savings is a numbers game. And the trick is to realize your savings account, I would lay odds does not have a better interest than what your credit card is charging you. This is why you bring the credit card, the interest accruing debts down ASAP, as soon as possible. Because when you start looking at what you're saving, the big thing that I look at, aside from just the money, because I honestly have not worried about money. Bad idea, really bad idea. But sometimes having things paid off early comes in real handy because the stress goes away. And if you're saving yourself stress, I'll tell you from practical experience, I save myself from stress, and I all of a sudden am not going through, well, it's not that big of a deal for me, but I'll tell you, my wife is not happy about the concept. I bring my stress down. I don't go through another heart attack. You bring your stress down, maybe you're no longer stress eating. Okay. The reality is saving your stress levels for a day that you really require them. Like maybe you're caught in a tornado. Stress is going to be something you're just not going to avoid. Hopefully you'll miss the tornado. Okay, although I can tell you, they're a riot to fly. I don't recommend it, by the way. When you start looking at your finances, at savings, ask yourself this: is the savings dropping your stress level? Okay, and this is why I say that 1% off the top. Yeah, I appreciate that, Philip. Philip goes, the Canadian equivalent to the United States Certificate of Deposit, CD, is a guaranteed investment certificate, which is a GIC. He's absolutely correct. And again, since when you look at the Canadian economy, I don't know the equivalent in the States. Okay, but up here we have something called a TSFA, a tax-free savings account. If you buy a GIC through a tax-free savings account, then none of it gets taxed. Now, if you're not my age, even if you are, that little bit of money can make all the difference in the world. But I'll tell you, the trick to it is this, and I don't know what the limits are in your guys' end. Take a look in your own bank, and again, do your own research. Okay? What you do is you get as small a certificate as you can get. Okay? Lock it in for just a single year. But you have it flipped over so that the principal, which is the amount you borrowed, and the interest are both reinvested in the GIC as soon as it gets in another GIC as soon as it matures. Yeah. Now, I do not personally recommend gambling on the stock market. I know people make it. Yeah. Philip goes, I had to ask my phone what they're called in Canada since they have different names. Oh, yeah. And that's just it. I don't ask my phone. I ask my wife. Because my phone looks at me and goes, huh? Or we're up in Canada, it goes, eh?
Actually, I think it just ignores them except for the random times when it decides to call somebody out of the blue.
Pretty much. You would love that one. That's total sidetrack. But I was talking to my little brother on my cell phone. While I'm talking to him, my cell phone phones somebody else altogether. Like, I didn't touch the buttons at all. And this is just normal routine. Now, there's no saving this. I simply, the phone rang and I told the woman that had called, look, I have no idea why my phone called you. I will tell you, the more control, the more guidance you have over your own life, the better off you're going to be. Okay. And the other thing where it comes to savings, okay, and again, this is why I say everything is connected. When you turn around and you clear the clutter out of your house or out of your office, out of your business, when you do that, the energy runs much more smoothly and your ability to handle your finances climbs almost exponentially. Some of you that are mathematically challenged do have a little bit of a hiccup. So talk to somebody that isn't. Samo, how you doing? Samo is one of our moderators, and he's just joined us. And again, he is here to help make sure problem children are not problem children. Okay, as well as to help with asking questions if something comes up and things are stalling. Now, you can bet your bottom dollar I stall for a lot of things. Not the least of which is I stall going out if I'm hungry. But when you take a look, Operation goes, Keith, when you worked at the psychic hotline, did anyone ask you to give them stock tips? A staggering number of people. Okay, they really did. Did I do it on occasion? Certainly. Okay, one of the biggest tips I ever made, though, was don't do it. Okay, I have found that there is a way to make money on stock tips, on stocks. And in all fairness, if you handle it properly, you can do it, but it boils down to doing your own research. Now, since you brought up Operation, here's something to take to the bank. Okay, let's say that you're looking to invest in a company, in stocks. Absolutely, the start of it is right. Okay, get the dossier, get the portfolio from them, get the plans that the information that the company is planning on using. But what they'll tell you is take a look at the information and then figure out what the company is going to do. This is absolutely the wrong move. Okay, no, I don't play the stocks, but I have guided people for years on it, and here's the kicker with it. Especially with any of the stocks, and penny stocks are just as good. Okay, you don't figure out what the company's planning on doing. Figure out what the other investors think the company is going to be doing. Because when the other investors are all of a sudden dumping, okay, this may be some time to look at possibly buying. Okay, if everybody's buying, it may be a good idea to look at selling. And understand something very critical here. You don't have to make $1 million on a sale unless you got several million in it. Okay, but if you are making a little bit of money, it may not be as rapid a climb as you'd like. Patience is the key to making things work. Philip is going, where are we here? In January, there was a story of someone calling the police after a potential client accidentally butt dialed them. Claimed to feel threatened by a butt dial because of a local because of loud background noise. Now, the thing we have to realize is we are being taught to fear. Okay. Now, I am a firm believer. Yes, there are things that go sour. Okay, absolutely. Oh, I'm just reading back up here. Samuel goes, I was lurking behind the scenes. There is a way to do it, but I will warn you, Samuel, I can explain how to do that, but it does take discipline. I'm in the middle of putting that together. Okay, same as your pantry. Aim for 3 months, definitely, but it's going to take some time. In the meantime, there's two things to keep in mind. Spend as little, cut back on your spending as much as functionally feasible. Okay. Where are we here? Go back up. Yeah. The sad part about it, when you look at the way the world is, okay, if you desire to save money, It's a question of knowing whether or not saving actually is more efficient than what you're doing. But you got to slow things down. I will tell you, in today's world, everybody virtually, because of the way it's built, you virtually have to have a credit card. One. Okay. If you've got more than one, don't worry about the interest rate. I know that sounds backwards, but if you've got one credit card, you're going to require it. Okay, in today's world, you really will. If you've got more than one, let's start with the obvious issue. Do not turn around and cancel them. In my opinion, it cripples your credit rating to start with. But I did talk to somebody years ago that figured out how to do it.
Yeah, closing your accounts actually lowers. So credit scores have a few different calculations that they use for points. One of those is called credit age. So when you close an account, it makes your credit. It messes with the credit age rating. And I think it makes your account look younger than it actually is. That's also why people recommend not getting too many credit cards all at once in a short period of time. You kind of spread it out over time a little bit so that it doesn't mess with the credit age too much. But more importantly is your debt ratio score. So that's kind of the one you want to pay most attention to.
And thank you very much for that, Kira. Ultimately, that is the case. Now, here's the trick. Many of you have the same problem I used to have, also known as impulse buying. And the trick that somebody taught me was this. Take your credit cards, okay, all but the one, okay, and make sure it's one that you've got under limit, okay. All the rest of them, you literally take them and take the credit cards. You take a piece of cardstock, okay, wrap the credit card in it, and then you set and wrap each individual credit card in a piece of cardstock. You can take all of these cards, put them in a Ziploc freezer bag. Okay. Now the weight of the cards should be enough. If it's not, put a rock or two in there with it. In a sealed freezer bag. Take that freezer bag. Okay. Take that freezer bag. You put it in a bucket. Okay. Fill the bucket with water and put the whole thing in the freezer. Now, the thing is, this will stop you from impulse buying because you cannot afford to put that card into the microwave to thaw it out. If you do, you have two problems. One, you fried the card. Two, you fried the microwave. And three, you may have just burned down your house. These are all bad expenses. Yeah. LA Moon goes, 100 years ago, penny stocks crashed the stock market. This sort of thing cycles about every 70 years or so. Fast forward to now, we're looking at Bitcoin. That looks awfully similar. Yeah. The thing is, when you start looking at that, Bitcoin came out, I personally looked at it and went, not touching it. But, to be fair, we have to look at the reality of it. This civilization is leaving Earth, and you're not taking gold bullion with you. It's just not going to happen. I want to be here. Well, one of the things that I look at where it comes to money and investing, the one thing I have found that works really well to invest in is invest in people you know. Okay, people that you know their drive is high, that they'll succeed. This is the best way to invest. Okay, but you gotta be cautious that you don't invest more than what you can personally afford to lose. Okay, and this is why when we're talking about savings, or you go for this 2-for-1 deal. 2-for-1 is great if you're going to use it. Like, for instance, 2-for-1 laundry soap or 2-for-1 toilet paper. It's a great option because you know they don't go bad. Okay, but 2-for-1 jugs of milk, not a good option most of the time, unless you split the grocery cost with a neighbor or somebody else that you like. One of the things I keep looking at is that when we're talking about saving, I'm not talking about saving just money. I'm talking about saving energy as well. Here's the neat thing, and I know people my age were taught this. People younger than me, many of you weren't. If you got stuff that's around the house, okay, we were taught growing up, if you're heading for the back room and something's got to get there, pick it up and take it with you. You're saving energy expenditure. Okay, and I don't mean the cost of your lights. Okay, well, I could go into I don't pay a lot of attention to stocks. I mean, do read the chat room because my trying to relay that, I'm way out of my league on what I know on that one. But what I can tell you is when you're looking at spending anything, okay, be certain that you actually require it. Okay, like I was saying earlier, I found where it comes to something as simple as juice. Okay, if it's freezable, okay, it works like a charm. You can buy the vegetable or the fruit and puree it yourself. Lord knows there's all kinds of people that have food processors, or for that matter, like when I was making apple juice when I was a kid, okay, we'd cook it on the stove. We didn't have food processors. You had a stove and you had a strainer and hopefully some sort of a I forget what the thing is called. Oh, a pestle. Okay, I believe the pestle is the post that you use. But the point being, there are ways of putting the effort in. Takes a little bit more, but it will save you a staggering amount. Here we go. Skip goes, if we're talking about dinner and your friend gotta buy some potatoes, it's better to offer if you have extra. One day you'll get a free steak. Sharing is caring. Absolutely. Absolutely there. And I believe that was LA. Yep. My apologies. I looked at Skip and then the thing scrolled on me. No, I got it right.
It was Skip.
Yeah, I have a wonderful time trying to track the, and this is why, like, I have trouble tracking the screen when it rolls like that. This is why I say Dave Scott. He runs 3 or 4 scrollers, and I have no idea how he tracks them. But one of the things that I will tell you is the more you learn how to cooperate, how to communicate with the friends and family you get along with, okay, the easier it is to put money in both of your accounts. Okay, or more to the point, the easier it is to stop spending it. Flubberlane, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, where am I? Oh, I don't have that, do I? No. I will have to check that after. Like I look at this whole thing going, we've got to find a way to make things work. And I'll tell you, spending money, people say you got to spend money to make money. This has got to be one of the biggest misconceptions available. Okay, you don't have to spend money to make money. You have to think on how you're going to spend money to be able to make it. Okay, and I hate to tell you this, but quite seriously, if any of you are considering making money, just remember something very important. The government and the police frown on counterfeiting. And other than that, you're not making money anyway. You know, one of the big things that we have to take a look at. Yeah, Philip goes, Dave is high tech. You know, I figure I'm high tech. Here's about as high tech as I get. Okay, there's high tech for you. Doesn't belong to me, but that's an abacus. Okay, but I still use pen and paper because it works better. Not faster, but it works better most of the time. Now, the other thing with savings, understand we are not talking about cookie jar filling. Okay, works like a charm, but money sitting still will give you a sense of security. The problem is, in today's world, with the cost continually rising based on other people's greed, it can backfire pretty big.
10, by the way, minutes.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I have to take a look at when you're looking at saving, okay, saving is not a question of whether or not you put money in the bank and your bank account grows. That is only one indicator. I will tell you, if you've got all your bills paid, if you're living in a house, okay, living in an apartment, you're in better shape than 80% of the population of this planet. Okay. And, you know, if you can wake up with a roof over your head and food in the house and a smile on your face, at this point, in my opinion, you're already wealthy. You know, one of the biggest things that I look at where it comes to saving, okay, is literally it accounts for everything. You know, and I'm bad at some of this. You know, think and use less words to say more. It's another form of saving energy. Okay, I usually say lots, and then my brain catches up and goes, "Yeah, I should have said that in a different fashion." Okay, but now, the fact that we're down to under 10 minutes here does tell me that we've got to take a look at something here. Again, hopefully this has helped. I really appreciate you guys dropping in. And like I said, these are all tools I personally put to use. So it's not just a case of do what I say. It's a question of here's an idea. If you haven't done something yourself and you come up with it and you haven't tried this method, absolutely give it a shot. You know, I'm not about to sit here and lie to you to make you feel better. Okay. I did in one case, but that's a story for another day. Now, tomorrow we are going to be taking a look at the self-help side of things on how to move forward. So many people say, just put the past behind you and move forward. You know, just let it go. It's a wonderful thought. Picture of your wheel hanging off a balcony and you're told, just let go. This is not going to end well. Sometimes letting go doesn't work, but you can nonetheless move forward. Now, this said, and let's get back to where I was. This said, when we start taking a look at it, you know, the biggest thing we have to look at is saving is literally a matter of mindset. And yes, it can be worked through. With this in mind, I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really do appreciate it. And as always, the questions that do come in, I definitely appreciate because they help me figure out what's coming next. Okay, that said, I will be back again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for a day in the office and at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, both PST, for Positive Perceptions. Okay, I'm currently working on Positive Perspectives, the February edition, to get out as soon as I can. That said, until we talk again, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.